Hello, it's me again. Last time I posted a video, we covered Bloom's biological family. So today I wanted to give a little love to the people who raised her. Quick reminder to check out the description for my shop info, and let's just jump right in. My favorite thing about Mike is that he really is just some guy. He's just a nice dude who ended up surrounded by craziness and somehow manages to roll with it. With how bananas the first episode is, I think his position as the skeptical person is nice.
She's some kind of fairy.
I see.
You believe me then?
No, I don't. I think we should call the police and take this girl to a hospital.
He's a grounding presence as his wife and daughter get swept up into the magic. In Roxy's video, I mentioned the fact that Daphne's Hail Mary portal spell was meant to send Bloom to the time and place she would be safest. But we also know that Daph was a pretty amateur fairy at the time, so there was bound to be some randomness and miscalculation in the spell. It ended up sending Bloom to the distant future, to the planet that had no threat of Valtor's wrath, but to a town with a strong fairy presence nonetheless. Thus why it had to be in the future. It's quite complicated, so if you think it's like a plot hole or whatever, blame Daphne. I think Bloom popped into an abandoned house, and as a distressed little baby that had just been engulfed in magical energy, she absolutely lit that place up. I like when people interpret it that she was drawn to the house fire when being teleported, like the fire had already been there, but I think it's much funnier if a baby was the ignition point. God, I love that Bloom was adopted by a firefighter. I like to think that Mike finding her specifically was actually part of the reason that's where she ended up. How sweet is the idea that he was magically destined to be her dad because a spell was cast to protect her. Not only would she be safe from evil witches and monsters, but she would also be taken in by people who truly love and accept her, and are equipped to deal with any potential incendiary incidents. It's interesting to be redesigning characters that are just Earth humans. Not something I really get to do for this rewrite. I wasn't sure if I should put Mike in just plain casual clothes or draw him fully suited up, so I settled on doing like the half uniform that I think firefighters like hang out in at the station. Also, I don't know if you guys remember, but I made Gardenia a neighborhood in Queens, which for any non-Americans who might not know, is a borough of New York City. I know it's Italy in the original, but I don't know anything about living in Italy, and since I'm doing so much research and world building around magics, I wanted to have Gardenia be a place I'm familiar with. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually from Long Island. Yes, Queens isn't Long Island, but it's on the landmass, which, fun fact, was formed by glaciers receding after the last ice age. That's why the North Shore is so rocky. As the glaciers slowed down, all of the big stuff fell out first. I just think that's neat. I thought it would be a nice moment to just kind of give some love to the place I grew up. So I wanted Mike and Vanessa to really feel like ordinary people that you could meet out and about during a walk on Main Street or something. I gave Mike shorter hair with a shade of blonde that felt a little more natural. I actually did look into the dress codes for firefighters for his design. Short hair isn't required, but I thought he would definitely want to have something low maintenance. And I didn't really want to stray too much from the original for these two. It is recommended for firefighters to have tightly groomed, if not zero, facial hair though, so as not to interfere with the seal of their facial gear, which I thought was interesting. He only has his undershirt on right now, which is white because Mike is a higher ranking officer in the department. Otherwise, it would be a blue or a light blue kind of shirt. I'm not entirely sure I fully understand the rankings, but through my readings and research, I believe it would fit Mike to be the battalion chief, meaning he would have multiple firehouses under his command, but not be the top of the chain of the entire district within the Queen's, like, firefighters. According to Wikipedia, quote, "The New York City Fire Department is the largest municipal fire department in North America and the Western Hemisphere, as well as the second largest in the world after the Tokyo Fire Department," unquote. And to me, this is an interesting parallel to Bloom's birth father, Oratel, who was not only king of one of the global superpowers of magics, but also someone who trained to be a valiant warrior for his people. I think having Mike be a firefighter is the best link to that concept that's possible in our modern world. world. Not a politician or a soldier, but someone who remains in their community and puts himself in danger knowing there are people relying on him. That personal investment is there, like Oratel would have felt for his people, especially as someone who didn't grow up royal and regularly traveled and interacted with many other average people. Another thing I think is interesting about Mike is that he has the same hair and eye color as Sky. I don't mean it in like a Freudian kind of way, of course. I just think it's interesting that Bloom's ideal Prince Charming happens to resemble the man that was her example of what a strong, healthy relationship looks like. And I'm pretty sure I talked about this before. I want there to be interesting dynamics between the Winx and their friends, and Mike and Vanessa during season 2 while everyone's on Earth. Knowing that Sky has a strained relationship with his parents, the King and Queen of Heraklion, I think seeing him have a good relationship with Bloom's parents would be very sweet. Mike would absolutely become an instant role model for Sky, who takes his job as a specialist very seriously and just wants to help people. Not only would Mike become someone he wants to look up to, but there would probably be a bit of pressure knowing that Bloom's dad is what he considers to be a hero, which I think is funny. I want to see Mike teach Sky quaint Earth things like barbecuing and how to use a fire extinguisher. Probably in that order, too. Mike's main role is to be a grounding force. On the job, he is fearless, but he still finds himself flustered by things like magic and fairy wings, much preferring normalcy and peace and quiet. When everyone is in the middle of their character arcs, having him around will be quite the blessing. The Peters house is located near Gardenia's main street, and it's just a brief little walk or bike ride down to Vanessa's shop. She's a florist and one of the town's favorite people. Vanessa is the kind of person that just seems to know everybody. While her husband is much more reserved around people, Vanessa is friendly and outgoing. Despite being so excited to run off to Althea, I really want Bloom to feel like she has community on Earth. Part of her, deep down, has always struggled to feel like she totally belongs. But I think it's important to her story that she really feels like she's from Earth, not just someone from Magix who ended up there. It would be nice to see her stop by more often, not just when she's brooding and running away from her problems. I want to see her at her mom's shop, bringing her a coffee and just hanging out, saying hello to their regulars who laugh and say they remember when she was 2 feet tall, preparing orders for events at her high school, and talking to her mom about random family drama. I imagine Vanessa comes from a large family. It seems to be a popular headcanon that Vanessa is unable to have children, and I do appreciate that that makes Bloom's arrival feel extra serendipitous. And in regards to that headcanon, there are a lot of reasons why someone might be barren or just unable to have kids. But to be honest, I think I want my version to be fully capable of becoming pregnant and just not. This Vanessa is an Italian-American woman who comes from a big family. She grew up with lots of siblings and cousins, and the house would always be loud and crowded. I think she was just enjoying her new married life for a while, just the two of them. It's not like she didn't have plenty of nieces and nephews to visit, and her plants. Then, when Mike tells her about the little girl he came across abandoned in a burning building with no family and nowhere to go, instead of it being an answer to her prayers, it's entirely her choice to adopt her. There's nothing wrong with interpreting her as having fertility issues, of course. I just think it makes more sense for Vanessa's character in this story to see a little girl who needs a mom and decide to take her in, rather than actively wishing for a baby, if that makes sense. She was also close with Roxy's mom, and when she died, Roxy became closer with Vanessa in their mourning. When Bloom met Stella, she ended up living with them for the summer to teach Bloom before they went to Althea. Then later, when Bloom is dating Sky, he starts to get closer with her and Mike than he ever was with his own parents. I think all of the Winx and their friends have their own appreciation for her, as she would take the time to get to know each of them individually, especially when they're all staying on Earth in season 2. Then, finding herself accidentally surrounded by a massive found family, it would bring her a sense of almost comfort, reminding her of those good times she had with all her siblings and cousins growing up. I do like Vanessa in the show, but I wish we had more time with her. It feels like Bloom was very close with her mom before she went off to Althea, and I want to see more of that. Vanessa just seems underdeveloped to me. There's a lot of unrealized potential with her, I think. I wanted to go in a similar direction with Mike in making her feel analogous to Bloom's birth mother, Marion. Both are lovers of art and people. Social butterflies that just want to do whatever they can for their communities. And both are firecrackers with a strong sense of justice and the temperament to stand up for it. I think she's out there at food pantries, donation centers, and blowing up the mic at town halls. I want her to seem like a kind of 2012 hipster girl grown up. She definitely had a Tumblr and does paintings and has been teaching Bloom art stuff since she was little. She brings her plants to a little stall at the farmer's market every Saturday morning and sends Bloom off to buy her fresh pastries and homemade ceramics from her fellow vendors. She's a bright, smiley person. I wanted to make sure I gave her smile lines, and I thought it would be fun to give her a downturned smile. Again, I want her and Mike to feel real and relatable, and I have a bit of a downturned smile that I have found myself feeling unconfident about. She is rep for me. Like I said earlier, this felt like a nice little way to appreciate my home, and I know people love to say America doesn't have culture, but in my opinion, that couldn't be further from the truth. Sometimes I do wish I had more of a connection to the places my ancestors came from, which I think is very common for Americans who have had their family here for a few generations, but I find this disconnect from heritage to be especially strong in white Americans. I'm sure you're familiar with the trope of white people listing their background in percentages. I've done that many times. And I think that comes from a feeling that we just don't have the ability to connect with those cultures that we know our family line is tied to. But also maybe not feeling like the American community around us has a valid or special enough culture. This country is huge, and don't get me wrong, I have my issues with it. But the people here are so diverse and interesting, and I think that is beautiful. Coming back to Italian Americans, especially here in the city and on Long Island, it's fun to clown on us, but I am really glad to be a part of it. Sunday pasta night and these cookies that I don't even really like that much. Our little traditions and idioms and the way we all have an uncle that wears a white tank top and a gold chain. It's about having that group of people with similar lived experiences to you. People have called me out as being from Long Island because of my accent and how I fold my pizza. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting a bit off track. I guess I've just been having a lot of emotions about America lately. Anyway, I gave Vanessa tattoos to show her edgier side and her appreciation for art. I tried to be very particular with what I gave her in her sleeve. Let me know how you interpret them in the comments. Oh, and like the video and stuff while you're down there. Vanessa was very receptive to suddenly being thrown into a reality where fairies and magic exists. So I thought it would be a nice touch to have Vanessa be someone who dabbles in paganism and witchcraft. She was probably raised Catholic based on the whole being Italian thing, but I definitely think she seems like someone who would grab your hand and give you a palm reading or pull some tarot cards for you if you had something going on. Tell me this woman doesn't collect crystals. Having her be a little witchy millennial lady is also fun when her daughter is out on another planet actively fighting 3 evil witches. On another note, I've always loved that Bloom's mother has a flower shop, and then her roommate at Althea ends up being named Flora and being a fairy of nature. Flora is, of course, the mom friend, which comes with its own set of pros and cons, but also she probably literally reminds Bloom of her mom on Earth, which would be really comforting. And obviously, Flora and Vanessa would love each other. Oh, also, Kiko is here. A lot of you have mentioned that I just kind of forgot about his existence. And he's an iconic part of the original series, but I just don't think he really serves much of a purpose besides being an animal mascot. So, you've heard of bodega cats. Here's a flower shop bunny. He's just a silly little guy that people come in to see and end up buying something while they're there. Great for business. I'm so happy with how these two came out. I really think they seem like the kind of people who would raise someone like this version of Bloom. And I love that I had the opportunity to give her a stronger connection to Earth. She's from 2 worlds, and just because Earth seems normal and boring to us, doesn't make that part of her any less important. Also, even if Marion and Oratel were able to come back from the dead, which they're not, Bloom would never ever stop calling Mike and Vanessa mom and dad. That's their baby girl, through and through. What do you think? Was this video still entertaining without all the glitz and the glam? Do you like the new line art that I'm doing, where I don't retrace the line art that I already have? Do you think Bloom's 2 sets of parents would get along? Have you met anyone like Mike and Vanessa out in the real world? I want opinions. Give me your opinions. I've been so busy and it's been so long since I've gotten to post. I'm just as starved for Winx stuff as you guys are. And until next time when we get some more, bye. By the way, in Mike and Vanessa's minds, Stella is their second daughter. They love her so much. That's Bloom's sister.